Yeah, like in this conversation, I'm really struck by what Stênio you said at the beginning as well about like this interrupted love. Like it's not that this love ended. It's not that this was like a childhood love. It's interrupted and it like never ends because the letter is never revealed. And I think that preserves so much tenderness in the book. And it's just so full of like emotion and hope. Like there are so many times that Raimundo could react with bitterness or like despair or just like being done, basically. But he always like there's always this like little bit of openness that keeps him going and this tenderness. And I think Bruna goes back to what you were saying at the beginning about this, like the emotion at the heart of the book, but also like the playfulness at the heart of the book with like what the idea of a novel is too. Like it's not giving you this perfectly packaged ending. It's giving you this like extremely human experience. And I think a lot of queer literature also is like just very traumatic and sad. And when I read this, I was also struck by like just how like tender and loving it was and like the found community he has. And that just to me was like completely different than any other book I'd read like in ages, if ever. And I just like wonder if you kind of were, Stênio, were like cognizant of this, or if you were thinking kind of about like writing in this space of like tragedy and like how you were like negotiating like queerness as tragedy is like kind of a genre and like writing beyond it, or kind of and how you like approach that concept of like finality, and didn't engage with finality, which is like an amazing, I think, feat as an author. But yeah, if that occurred to you at all.
Oi, Isabel.
Hello, Isabel.
Olha, eu pensando, quando eu
Well,
fui pensar toda a história do
I
Raimundo,
thought of Raimundo's story,
eu sabia que eu teria que passar
and I
pela
knew
tragédia, como você
that I would have
colocando,
to go through
todos
tragedy,
os momentos
as you
dramáticos,
mentioned. Some dramatic
todas
moments,
as cenas de violência,
some violence
né, as
scenes,
falas de violência que estão
some
no livro.
violent
Não que
things
eu
that
não
are
acho
said
que
in this book.
seja estritamente necessário em todo
I
livro
don't think this is strictly
queer
necessary
fazer
for
dessa
all queer
forma, ou
literature
que
to
não haja
work that
bons e
way.
ótimos livros
And I believe that there
queer
are
que não
excellent
trazem
queer books
essas questões.
that do not tackle that.
Mas na minha cabeça, a
However,
história que eu queria
in my
contar
mind, the story I wanted to tell
passava por isso. Eu
had
queria
somehow to
mostrar
go through this.
esse personagem
I
que
wanted to
se
show
descobre,
this character that discovers himself,
aceita-se em determinada
accepts
medida,
himself to some extent,
então se depara
and then
com a violência
he's faced
por causa
with violence
do que ele sente, do que ele é,
because of what he
e
is
aí
and because of
então
what he
ele passa a
feels.
não se aceitar,
And then he stops
e
accepting
só depois
himself.
de encontrar alguém que é
And
ao mesmo
only
tempo
after
parecido e diferente
finding
dele,
someone that's
é que
at the
ele
same time
começa uma
similar
nova
and different
trajetória
from
de
him,
autoaceitação
that's when he
e
begins a
de
new self
aceitação também
acceptance
de sua
journey,
postura e de sua
a new
figura no mundo.
journey to
Então,
accept what he
resumidamente,
is in the world.
é assim que eu
So,
enxergo
in summary,
o percurso do
that is
Raimundo.
how I see
E não
Raimundo's
seria
journey.
possível isso sem as
And this
passagens
journey
de violência,
would
sem
not
eu
be
dar
possible
para
with
ele
some
o
violent passages,
background da família, em que ele sabe
without
do
his
assassinato do
family
tio,
background. He knows his
sem
uncle
passar
was
pelo
murdered,
encontro dele com a Suzani, que é uma
without going
personagem
through his encounter with
incrível,
Suzanne. She's an
e que
amazing
muda a
character.
vida do Raimundo
She
em todos os
changes his
sentidos,
life
mas que eu
in all
sabia que,
senses.
num primeiro momento, seria
But
um
I knew
encontro
that at
ah,
first
ah, de conturbado
that
e
would
que
be
acabaria com um ato
a disturbing
transfóbico,
encounter, and
e
that
que
it would
depois,
end somehow in
quando
some
Raimundo já estivesse
transphobic
mais
act.
bem consigo
Afterwards, when Raimundo felt better
gente,
with
estivesse melhor consigo
himself,
mesmo, e também já com a Suzani, e
and also when
convivendo
he
com a
was
dona
better off with
Solange,
Suzanne,
quando ele
with
fala que
Solange,
ele está à vontade com elas duas
He
e
says
ele
that he
ele
feels
percebe que
comfortable
as
with the two of
palavras têm
them.
som
And he
diferente
realizes, he
quando
says,
está à
he
vontade com
realizes
elas,
that the
né?
words
Não
sound
são as
differently
palavras são
when he
iguais
feels
às
comfortable
palavras
with
que ele
them.
guarda dentro dele mesmo.
The words are different from the words that
Então,
he
é
keeps inside of
nesse
him.
contexto já
So in
modificado
that
que
context,
ele vai
in a
formar
context in which
novos
he's
vínculos nessa
changed,
família,
that's where he creates
onde ele
new
não consegue
bonds.
ter família sanguínea, ele forma uma família
They're not
de
relatives from a
afetos, com a
blood
Suzani, com a
perspective,
Creide, com a Alex
but
e
they're
com
his
a dona
family from an
Solange.
affection perspective.
Então,
Solange, Suzanne.
seria uma outra história, seria um outro
So the
livro
book would be
se
different.
eu
The story would be different
não passasse
had I not
por
decided,
por esses momentos, por
to
esses
go
eventos
down this
narrativos.
road and these
E com
narrative
relação
moments.
à ideia de encerramento, né, de
Regarding the
finalidade, se eu não
end
me engano,
or
que
the
você
finality, as
perguntou,
you said, right?
acho que é mais de encerramento, né,
And the
de
ending, I would
closure,
say,
não sei
né?
se é isso.
A closure of sorts.
A carta ela já
The
não traz
letter,
já fica em aberto.
with the open
Então,
letter or the fact that
em
I
outros
don't give the
aspectos, eu
content of the
queria
letter,
dar essa
the
sensação de
ending is
segurança e
open.
de mais estabilidade para o Raimundo.
Of
E por
course, I
isso que
wanted to give
eu
Raimundo some sense of
coloco já
stability and security.
nessa nova família
And
que ele
that's why I
formou.
place him in this new family that he creates.